My name is Marsha Skrypuch, and I'm the author of Underground Soldier. This book is a companion novel to Making Bombs for Hitler, which won the Silver Birch Award in 2013. Also companion novel to Stolen Child. The three books can be read in any order, but just to tell you a little bit about this book before I do a reading of it, it's about Luca, who was Lita's friend from Making Bombs for Hitler, and he escapes the slave labor camp. And he decides that he wants to go back home to Kiev, which is kind of absolutely impossible because there is the war happening between the slave labor camp that he escaped from and his home in Kiev. But he thinks that he can walk through the mountains and somehow get home. So on his way, trying to escape, he does get into the mountains. He encounters another slave laborer who is escaping, and her name is Martina. It's getting cold, they don't have enough to eat, they're freezing because they don't have enough to wear. And so I'm just going to read this one scene, and it's the two of them together during their journey. I had lost track of the dates. By the time we got to the mountains, it had to be mid-December. The days were more often snowy than wet. Sheer ice, rocky hills, deep crevasses made traveling so difficult. The entire mountainside was crisscrossed with paths, some surely made by escaped slave laborers who were lost, others made by people from the area who knew where they were going. But how could we tell which was which? As we hid in the trees or dug our way into holes with branches to cover us, we prayed for luck. Beyond the canopy of firs, we could hear airplanes. More than once, we ducked for cover as a fighter plane strafed the treetops, shooting blindly as it barreled overhead. We were increasingly hungry as our food ran out, and as well as cold and frightened. I began to doubt the wisdom of trying to escape to the mountains. Maybe we should have stayed in that village with the woman and her son, but staying there would have felt like giving up. Even though the war seemed to be following in our footsteps, I had to get back to Kiev and find my father. We were so close to the battle areas that we'd seen Red Army soldiers escaping with disintegrating boots and frost-bitten cheeks, limping past us as we hid. From time to time, we would also see German soldiers who had given up and escapees from the camps. Young people wearing homespun clothing would pass by too. It was as if the entire world had decided to escape to the mountains. Once, in the blackest part of night, our way was completely blocked by a raging creek. We walked along it, hoping to find a spot without treacherous rocks jutting upwards. We were both shivering by the time we found a spot that looked narrow enough to cross. I grabbed a long branch from the ground and plunged into the water to see how deep it was, Close to the bank, it was just a few centimeters, but it dropped off steeply after that. How can we cross? I asked Martina. We're going to be soaked, and if we're soaked, we'll freeze. Keep those precious boots of yours dry, said Martina. I'm going to go in barefoot. She was right. I took off my boots and socks and stuck them into my knapsack. I rolled my pants up while Martina took off her ragged pistole. Holding each other's hands for balance and courage, we stepped into the creek together. The shock of the cold pierced through my bones. At the halfway point, my foot plunged down a hole, and I smacked hard into the icy water. My knapsack filled up with its weight, and it pulled me down. I flailed in panic, until all at once both of my feet touched the ground. I tried to stand, but the current was too strong and the knapsack pulled me down again. Then the weight of it disappeared. I've got the knapsack, said Martina. I managed to get my balance. Martina struggled to hold the knapsack as the current fought her for it. I reached out and grabbed one strap. Together we heaved it onto the jagged stone at the other side of the creek, and it stayed there. We groped our way towards the other side, slipping dangerously with each step. I fell several times, as did Martina, but finally I pushed her onto the shore. I could barely claw my own way out. We pulled our stopping shoes back on and stumbled to our feet. Martina gripped me by the shoulder, and we trudged forward, exhausted, but happy to be across the river. As we stumbled into the woods, a firm voice said, "Stop."